Okay, how do you reconcile a conundrum? You've got near perfection with the Nikon D500, and you have the Fuji X-T1 here, which I'm a total vertical battery grip slut. And the Fuji X-T1 is the sluttiest of all the girls with a vertical battery grip. The ergonomics and the magic mojo of the Fuji X-T1 with a vertical grip. I've already seen many pictures, and it turns out that the Fuji X-T2 is going to be released sooner than Photokina. And I knew that because pictures were leaking everywhere. There was even a schmuck that sold a prototype on eBay in Italy. And I bet Fuji sued his ass over that one. God knows what happened. I bet the police rolled in. Who knows what happened? It's going to be a little bit thicker. It's actually, I measured it. I did backwards engineering from the pictures. It's about 6 millimeters thicker. It's going to have a dual SD card slots. It's obviously going to have much faster continuous autofocus. I know for 1000% certainty it's not even going to touch 80% of the autofocus speed of the Nikon D500. Now, the Nikon D500 is like that super hot chick that, she's the, I don't know, she's the Playboy supermodel. And she kind of does it all, except, she's not perfect for landscape and portraiture, where the D810 would be a king and is still king. And people say, well, what are you going to do with your X-T1 now that you're living on the D500? Let me tell you, the reason I have and still own those Nikon D3s is because they're tanks. They're indestructible beasts. They're incredible. The frame rate is incredible. They're indestructible. It's the most indomitable camera ever made by anybody, digital-wise anyway. Obviously not talking about film cameras here. Nikon and Canon, and nobody made a camera like the Nikon D3, period. Nothing's ever going to touch it again. Today, it would cost $10,000 to make a camera like it. It's just too damn expensive. It's over-engineered, and it's just incredibly beefy. So where does the Fuji X-T1 play in against the Nikon D500 with its incredible autofocus speed? And the continuous autofocus speed of the Fuji X-T1 is in no way comparable. I mean, even before the D500 came out, just saying that the continuous autofocus on the Fuji X-T1 was great at all is just some crack-smoking hippie twaddle. This is top 3 most magical mojo cameras I've ever had my hands on, and definitely top 2. Let's see, I don't actually know where to place it next to the Nikon D3. I mean, Nikon D3 is number 1. Number 2 would be, well, number 2 and number 3 really is a toss-up between the D500 and the Fuji X-T1. The Fuji X-T1 is with the vertical grip, because the ergonomics of the vertical grip are absolutely incredible. It's not comparing anything. It's kind of like comparing, the beautiful skinny. The perfect analogy, and this is where the easiest way to explain this, because it's kind of an ineffable quality, especially if you've never handled or owned both of them. The Nikon D500 is like the super hot skinny chick that if you took her out on the farm, she really couldn't do anything except paint her nails. Well, that's kind of a bad analogy. This is made in Japan. It's an all-magnesium chassis. The mojo, the ergonomics, the way that Fuji really did not let its customers be beta testers on this camera. They thought and rethought and designed and redesigned before releasing this camera, and my God, they did a better job than Nikon. The only time Nikon did something like that was when the D3 came out, and things have kind of been downhill since there. They really have been. Not downhill from here, but I mean the over-engineering, just the indestructible beast and slap you in the face and sit on your skull sort of engineering on the D3. Everything, even though the specifications are much higher on the D500, obviously so, everything has still been kind of downhill from there. Made in Malaysia, carbon fiber, yeah, it's lighter weight, yeah, the D3 is insanely heavy, but this, in a much smaller form factor, is really the modern day Nikon D3. It's Japanese, it's all magnesium chassis. The mojo, the fit, form, function is an ineffable quality. You see, this is why, and the best people, and I was talking, Tom Hogan doesn't like me at all. I've debated him a little bit, but the one thing he said he did agree with me on is that all these pissants out there that look at specific. Well, it's got 10,000 anal spectroscopy points and 136 wraparound autofocus points. Eee! These idiots that look at specification charts on cameras, you can't really tell anything about a camera that way. It's like, well, sure you can. It's right there on the spec chart. No, you can't. There are a lot of cameras that look really awesome on a spec chart. Kind of like a really hot chick. You know, it's like, oh my God, she's a 10 out of 10. And then you realize, whoa, she's got herpes and other STDs. It's like, you know, she's really hot. If you squint your eyes, like, oh my God, she's hot. What do they say about people like that? It's like one of those chicks that is really hot when you're drunk, and I don't drink. But when you sober up, you get to know her, you're like, oh, God, you know. So, the cameras are really the same way. You want to make an analogy to women. Yeah, that sounds sexist, whatever. I had to think of some analogy that is extremely accurate as far as translating out the ineffable quality of a camera that you cannot get from a damn specification chart. Like, here's specification this, is length, width, you know. Great. All that stuff is informational, you know. It's great to know that stuff, and people want to know that stuff. But people that only want to know that stuff and base their subjective purchases upon that. Well, I've compared the two, you know, the specifications on this one are very slightly, but no, you can't do it that way. Ergonomics, the mojo, the form factor, how the menus are laid out. You can't get any of that crap, that information, off a spec chart. And that is why, regardless of the Nikon D500 being one hot girl, the FUJI X-T1 stands alone as, you know, wow. It's like a totally different breed of beautiful. You know, it really is. It's like a different breed of beautiful that you can admire just as much, even though the specifications are not matching the D500, especially in continuous autofocus. 16 megapixels, both crop sensors, autofocus acquisition, nowhere near as close. Low light, autofocus acquisition, of course not. With this camera, I mean, I won't part with it for anything. Like, you can take this camera out of my cold dead hands, and that is where the FUJI X-T1 stands. It does not stand in any difference after this came out than before it came out, because the mojo, the ineffable quality that is not found on the specification sheet of this camera is so damn sexy. It's actually been stunning to me, and love the hell out of the Fuji. So I've been asked that question by a lot of people. It's like, where the hell does the X-T1 stand now that the D500 is out and you love it so much and it's so incredible, blah, 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 blah. It stands the exact same place it stood before. So thank you. I hope I made that clear by using goofy and slightly sexist analogies, but sometimes that's the only way you can communicate, because human communication is oftentimes specifically non-linear when it is best applied for strict, you know, purposes of comprehending what someone is trying to say in communication. Okay? Thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, there's a huge sale on right now on Fuji stuff, especially some of their awesome lenses like the 16mm. So for right now, I forget when the sale goes off, but there's a huge sale on Fuji stuff, especially their lenses. Okay? And by the way, now that people realize that the FUJI X-T2 is coming out, there are a lot of cheap FUJI X-T1s on sale on eBay. I've seen a lot of them go for $6.50, $6.25, you know, as new. So really, that's less than half off, basically, from a new one. Okay, bye.